Hello YouTube, Chris here. Welcome back. I just put together a video on every Park Tool spoke wrench ever made. I want to give an explanation of each one, what they have made, what they're currently making, and explain the uses for these tools. This is an educational video, just going through some of the purposes of these tools and what they're for. And let me know below. I did a pretty thorough job when putting this together, I believe, and getting all the right information and getting everything pretty accurate. But if I missed anything, if I said anything wrong, please let me know. I'd love your feedback. I also threw a couple twists in there, which you'll see along the way. A couple things that you probably didn't know about, and I learned along the way in researching for this video. So let's get after it. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the Park Tool SW0. The Park Tool SW0 is a very common wrench. It is a 3.23 millimeter inner diameter spoke wrench. It's a three-sided spoke wrench. It means you can slip it on and off of the spoke nipples very easily. If you need to know the English measurement, it is 0.127 inches. Very commonly used tool. One of the most common ones to see in the shop. A lot of higher end wheels will use this with a little bit smaller spoke nipples. And the next couple are very similar, just in different widths. The next one you're going to see is the Park Tool SW1. Park Tool SW1 looks just like the SW0, but it's in green, not in black. Very minimal difference. The SW1 has an inner diameter of 3.30 millimeters, or 0.130 inches. Very little difference here, but it is different and does work on different size spoke nipples. Also very commonly used in nicer bikes where you have a smaller spoke nipple on the wheel. The next one we're going to look at is the SW2. SW2 is red in color. Again, looks the same, functions the same as the previous two. SW2 is a 3.45 millimeter inner diameter, and in English that's 0.136 inches. This wrench, very similar to the other two, just different in color, different in inner diameter, and very commonly used. You're going to use this more on more basic wheels with a little bit larger spoke nipple. Probably the most commonly used spoke wrench out there from Park Tool. After that, we go to the Park Tool SW3. Park Tool SW3, again, very similar to your 0, 1, and 2. This is a 3.96 millimeter inner diameter spoke wrench. In English, that's 0.156 inches. Again, three-sided spoke wrench, blue in color, just a little bit larger than the 2, 1, or 0. This wrench, not very commonly used. You need a pretty large spoke nipple for this. Maybe for like a tandem or an electric bike, something with a bigger nipple, but not one you're going to use very often. Now, in my professional knowledge, the SW0, 1, 2, and 3 were the only turnkey style, besides the SW5, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that were available. Those were the four sizes that you would use on any spoke nipple. Now, in doing research for this video, I came across some strange photos that you can see here, listing a yellow spoke wrench. One of which even had a Park Tool logo on it, and a website that listed black, green, red, blue with all the specs, and yellow with nothing next to it. Now, I did some research on this. I scoured the internet. I went through YouTube. I went through the bike forums. I could not find a sentence online about the yellow spoke wrench from Park Tool. I didn't know if it was a knockoff, it was a fake image, what it was, but it was absolutely killing me, so I had to get in touch with somebody who knew something about this. So I contacted Park Tool directly. I talked to a technician when I called there, and I basically explained what I was doing. I said, I'm making a video on every spoke wrench Park Tool has ever made, and I've stumbled across some images of a yellow spoke wrench, and I wanted to know what the tool number is, what size it is, if it's real, and what they could tell me about it. Well, the technician I talked to was stumped. He had no idea. He'd never heard of the wrench. He really didn't know anything about it. And I've worked with this gentleman before. He's very knowledgeable. So he said, well, let me put you on hold and see if I can get you the answer. He puts me on hold for about 5 minutes, and I'm thinking he's going to come back with nothing. Well, he comes back and he tells me, "Oh my God, this thing is a monster. This is a Park Tool spoke wrench I didn't even know existed. I found one in our entire warehouse. It is yellow in color. It has a 4.9 millimeter inner diameter, and the tool number is SW4." Which seemed to make sense, but I'd never heard of an SW4. I couldn't find any information on SW4. As far as I knew, SW4 was a myth. Well, he told me they discontinued it in 2005. I'd asked him what SW4 was used for, and he could not tell me. He had no idea what bike would have a spoke nipple that large to be a 4.9 millimeter. So if anyone knows anything more about this, it's a very interesting subject. This is like the Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster of spoke wrenches right here. But I have debunked it. The yellow is the SW4, and I have the dimensions, 4.9 millimeters for this wrench. So if anyone knows anything else about it, please put something in the comments. I'd love to learn more about this tool. And if anyone has one that they're willing to sell me or somehow get to me, please let me know. I'm happy. I'd love to get one of these in my hands and actually see it in person. So now that we have filled the mysterious gap between SW3 and SW5, we'll move on to SW5. The reason I didn't include SW5 in the previous wrenches is SW5 is not a square drive spoke nipple. SW5 is a torx style spoke nipple wrench. Not super commonly used. I believe this is used on some DT spokes and Tricon spoke nipples. But not something you use very often, not something you see very often, but it is an available product you can still purchase today. After that, we're going to move on to SW7 and SW7.2. SW7 and SW7.2. 7 is just the original version. 7.2 is the updated version. Just looks a little sleeker. There's probably a reason for those cutouts. Maybe they're a little bit longer, so they have better contact with the spoke nipples or something like that. But you can see SW7 on the left and SW7.2 on the right. And these two tools are more convenience tools. It's more combining 3 in 1, where this will have your SW0, SW1, and SW2 all in one spot. So if you have an emergency kit or a smaller tool collection at home, this is a great tool because you don't have to buy 3 tools. You can just buy the one, and it'll do all the most common spoke nipples. So next we have another interesting spoke wrench that a lot of you have probably never heard of. This is one that I had never heard of either until I started doing my research for this video. This is the Park Tool SW10. The Park Tool SW10 is a adjustable spoke wrench. So you can change the inner diameter of the wrench portion with a dial screw. I would believe this would be a predecessor to the SW7. I'm not 100% on that, but this is a wrench they no longer make. This is a discontinued product. I am currently trying to find one of these as well to check it out and take a look at it. Really interesting tool. I'd love to try it in person. So if you know anything more about this wrench, I'd love to hear more about it as well. Next up, we have SW11. SW11 is a double-sided long handle spoke wrench. This spoke wrench is typically used just for Campagnolo wheels. It is a hex end, one side being a 5.5 millimeter hex end and the other being a 6.0 millimeter hex end. After that, we have the SW12. Now, SW12 is an interesting tool. It has a small side and a large side. The small side is a 7 spline, 6.4 millimeter, and the large side is a 6 spline, 9 millimeter inner diameter. This is a Mavic tool. This tool is, as far as I know, only used on Mavic wheels. Now, the interesting thing is when we go to SW13, it's almost like a continuation of SW12 in that one of the sides is the same. So your SW13 has a 6 spline 9 millimeter side and a 6 spline 5.5 millimeter side, as opposed to on the 12 you have the 7 spline 6.4 millimeter side. Both these tools are Mavic tools. Like I said, they share one side and then the other side is different. So all three of those variations are for Mavic. After that, we move on to the SW14 and the SW14.5. SW14, being the older generation wrench, is a double-sided long handle Shimano tool. This had a 4.3 millimeter square drive nipple side and a 4.4 millimeter square drive nipple side. Now, when they came out with the new version, the SW14.5, they did away with the 4.3 millimeter side and they kept the 4.4 millimeter side. Now, they replaced the 4.3 with a 3.7 millimeter side. Now, on this newer generation Shimano tool, for the newer generation Shimano wheels, the 4.4 millimeter side was used for a nipple that would attach on the hub, while a 3.75 millimeter nipple would be on the rim. So depending on which wheel you had, you either use the 4.4 on the hub or the 3.75 on the rim. So now moving on to SW15, we are dealing with the first of our internal spoke nipple tools. These are tools where you would tighten the spoke from going through the rim side as opposed to on the spoke side. The first tool, SW15, is a three-way multi-tool. This is the three most common internal spoke tools in one. The first being a 3.2 millimeter square drive. You also have a 5 millimeter hex drive and a 5.5 millimeter hex drive. Like I said, these are the three most common of the internal nipple tools and are seen on various manufacturers, and this one tool will do just about any internal nipple. Next we have the SW16, which is essentially just one of those three tools, the 3.2 millimeter square drive internal on its own. They have an interesting one called the SW16.3, and I'm not 100% sure what this tool is used for, but it's a 3/16 hex socket, which I don't understand why it even is called SW16, considering the 16 is a square drive. And it's also only measured in English, which is kind of weird. Don't know a whole lot about this tool. If anyone out there knows more about it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what this thing is used for, because I don't really know what I would use that tool for. Next we got SW17, which is just the singular version of the 5 millimeter hex internal socket. SW18 is the 5.5 millimeter singular hex internal socket. And then they also have an SW19, which is a 6 millimeter hex internal socket. So from here on, every wrench we see is just going to be a different variation of a wrench we've already seen. We're going to start with the SW20 and the SW20.2. Now the 20 is the old version, which they no longer make. The 20.2 is the current version. These are 3.23 millimeter square drive nipple wrenches. It is the same as an SW0. Park Tool calls these their master wrenches. They're claimed to be made out of better steel to be longer lasting for shop use. They also make a SW22 and SW22.2, 22 being the old version, 22.2 being the current version. That's a 3.45 millimeter inner diameter and is the same as an SW2. Next we have the SW40. Now the SW40 is also the same as your SW0 and SW20.2. The only difference is this is a four-sided spoke wrench. So you can see it's got a little notch where the spoke would slide in, and then you can grip the spoke nipple on all four sides, giving you less chance of slipping and stripping out a nipple. This is a 3.23 millimeter wrench, and just for better grip on the nipple. They also make the SW42, which is a four-sided version of the SW2 and SW22.2. 3.45 millimeter inner diameter, and again, just a better slip-free version of those two wrenches. Well, that wraps up every Park Tool spoke wrench explained. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. I hope everyone out there learned something from this video. I know I learned a heck of a lot while making it. And please let me know in the comments if I missed anything, if there's any other wrenches out there that I missed, or if you have any questions, or maybe anything that I got wrong in the video. Also, I'm going to do more of these in the future, so please subscribe if you'd like to see more similar videos and other stuff that's bicycle related. Thanks again.